I've made it known that hookups and open relationships that people are having a lot of today, while ostensibly free, I think are just a waste of time because you just end up back at zero again. Imagine you had to find a new best friend every week. Yeah, imagine how much fun that would be. What disturbs me most about today's transient, very quick hookup culture is that you don't need to be yourself. You can just act because it's short term. You don't need to be yourself because what's the point? You're not there long enough. So people play roles, they act aloof. They're not themselves, but the downside is no one ever gets to know you. No one ever gets to spend long enough with you, and you keep ending up running after person, and you don't quite know why you're never being fulfilled because you're essentially never there, and no one gets to know you long enough because you're not there. You're essentially driving through a McDonald's drive-through. In and out, in and out, in and out, just rotating. Now, a lot of people find this freeing because you're not tied down and you're forever free and the potential of future is always there and you can do whatever you want. But don't kid yourself. Over the long term, if that's what you pattern yourself to, and more and more over time you're going to sleep at night and you're either bored or you have a sense of dread or emptiness, don't kid yourself about what you think your dating freedom is. Because a lot of people, and quite rightly so, in a couple of videos I've made recently where I said, do people even date anymore? And people said they don't, only boomers and Christians date. And when I look around, it's not a wholly ridiculous statement. Now, I'm not telling you how you need to have relationships, but I think it's important to understand how you're having relationships and whether you're being honest about how you're going about them, whether you're betraying who you are or if you're just putting a mask on. I've begun to even notice some of this evasiveness in friendships, platonic friendships that I have among the guys in my life as well. I think it started to bleed in. All these neurotic, hiding individuals that are so used to living as avatars digitally that when it comes time to be vulnerable as a flesh and blood person, they retreat. I think the bravery needs to come where we're more and more direct. And I'm not saying to be blunt, rude, and without tact. I'm saying to be open and direct. Do you know why straightforward people are so refreshing to be around? It's because there's no vagueness. And as such, you feel secure and clear around them. They mean what they say. When they agree with you, you tend to know they agree with you and they're not just trying to placate you. There's no need to guess. You don't have to read their signals. Yes doesn't mean no. Straightforward people aren't suppressing their needs and wants. They aren't suppressing emotions. They let it out directly. They let it out directly, or at the very least, they let you know in a very obvious way how they're feeling and what is affecting them. They won't pretend all is fine when it's not. They won't pretend to be happy about something that they're not happy about. They'll make their feelings fairly clear, if not directly clear. They won't tell you that something is wonderful and fantastic when it's only good. Again, they're not rude, they're honest and direct. In basic terms, what's refreshing and admirable and why we should be more direct ourselves is that the direct person puts expressing themselves first and foremost at the forefront. Then considers the communication with the world and others, honestly, and hopefully reciprocally, rather than just doing and saying what other people want to hear. That's why they're so refreshing. What of the vague and avoidant person? They're unsure and afraid most times of their own desires and needs, which is hard to be around that kind of person because you don't really know what they think and feel, and as such, it's very hard to love them because there's very little of them there to love. And I've mentioned particularly women at the start of even trying to begin relationships or getting to know them. Their default is this aloof, passive, quiet, agreeable personality where a guy, if he's not paying attention and reading between the lines, he'll come away from a date with an agreeable woman thinking, I had a great time. But if you really look at it, you had a great time with yourself, not with them. They were just mirroring you. They're often agreeable with everything, which initially feels good and can fool you into thinking, oh, this person's my match. Finally, I found someone who's like me, because that's very, very important. And I've learned essential is to find someone with your values and is as much like you as possible. Opposites don't attract. Trust me, guys, they don't. They don't have to be a mirror of you, but your values and temperament and the way you see life has to be so similar that it's approaching being identical. But these avoidant, agreeable people, even though their heart's in the right place, you get the wrong impression of them. You stay longer with them, and I've had this a lot in my past, I've been guilty of this. But then down the line, you slowly discover that they were censoring themselves, and there was an encyclopedia of what they wanted to say and be and communicate to you, but they didn't have the courage to. They were censoring themselves, and as such, manufacturing a relationship that wasn't there. I've had statements in my past relationships of this indirect, vague, agreeable, avoidant personality where instead of saying they miss me, they'd ask me, "Human, did you miss me?" And I mentioned this one recently where an ex of mine, rather than telling me her personal desire for a threesome, she concocted a story of her friend who wanted to have a threesome with her boyfriend and then waited to see my reaction to it. Or the typical one that most guys experience with women is, "What's wrong?"
Nothing.
Indirect people desperately want to be seen and heard, but they don't speak. They convey themselves passive-aggressively or through sarcasm, and then invariably at the end it starts annoying the other person. Look, I know a lot of this stuff is probably traced back to childhood trauma. It got baked in when they were children where the parental figure didn't let them say certain things. They had no wiggle room to express no's or just individuality. It was so strict that they were just taught that these large giants who provide me food and shelter, they don't let me say anything other than me parodying exactly the words that they say, how and when I'm supposed to say them. I can't say my own words. And also because, not just because they depend on the parental figure that they're afraid, but the child also wants to keep mummy and daddy smiling. They don't want them crying, they don't want them upset at them. So they learn to suppress any honest and authentic yeses and nos. And what happens is the child grows up to be an adult who's trained to be an actor, to get approval, to get along, to be loved, to be thought well of, to belong. But they never really speak. Never really. They just keep internally adjusting and editing themselves and conveying what other people want to hear. And then internally sitting in silence, never quite feeling like anyone gets them, especially the people that they're not expressing themselves honestly to in terms of their values and character and personality. It's always a manufactured personality that the other person will accept. They find out that you like chocolate milk, so they try to like chocolate milk just like you. But in the end, they're being loved falsely, and the direct type of person notices the contradictions and how their actions don't match their words. So I would suggest tell people exactly who you are, what you want, what your values are, because it's far better to disappoint someone right away rather than drip feeding them disappointment where you know it's going to end anyway. Complicated, avoidant and indirect, aloof behaviour doesn't make people like us, it drives people away from us. Better to be honest and rip that band-aid off and tell and express to people who you are. Because in my experience on balance, I'd say the vast majority of people find it at least refreshing, whether it works or not between the two of you. And you'll feel a lot better rather than you feeling spiritually and emotionally claustrophobic because you're always acting and editing yourself. And the only way you can be yourself is in the shed in the backyard or when you're alone. I mean, I need my alone time. But when I'm with a person, I want to be engaged with them. I want to listen to everything they have to say, and I want them to listen to everything I have to say. I want these sparks to fly. I don't want to just listen and repeat. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Has this happened to you? And what are your struggles with it? Have you had any? I have myself. And I'll probably be talking about this a little bit more in a future video. But I want to know some of your thoughts below. And given your guys' reflections and experience as well, it'll help me mull over a future video where I want to expand on this a little bit. Of being more direct and not going along and being fake, where I find it amazing how people can actually even enjoy relationships with each other, even hooking up, where you're going there nervously as an actor with a mask on, going action, playing your part, and then going cut. And when you go, then you can breathe It's almost like holding your breath while you're with a person and then exhaling when you're not around them anymore. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please subscribe if you already haven't, and share my videos around on your social media. That helps me out. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't. And if you feel like donating, there are links below. I'll talk to you very soon, guys. Bye.